are you going to do them? On November 19th, 1998, video game developers Valve released their flagship title Half-Life to critical and commercial acclaim. In the coming years, Valve would release several more games in the Half-Life series, such as Half-Life 2, Half-Life Alyx, and the 2 Portal games, for example. I want to ask all of you a question. Who here plays games like Call of Duty, Halo, stuff like that?
I do.
That's great. So, I know I for sure have as well. I have sunk in probably hundreds of hours into Black Ops 3, specifically the Zombies mode. Pretty neat. But without the game known as Half-Life, we would not have games like these today. There are 3 main reasons why Half-Life was such a genre-defining title. Firstly, is because of the interactive storytelling. Secondly, is because of the AI, or artificial intelligence, in the game. And thirdly, is because of the support for mods. Firstly, I want to talk about the interactive storytelling in the game. Most games, and specifically shooters, open up with a really big event starting right off the bat. However, Half-Life starts with a slow train ride to work, and is very slow and methodical. And it gives you time to get immersed into your setting. To quote Keith Stewart from The Guardian, quote, "The brilliance of Half-Life begins with its immersive storytelling. The opening accustoms us to the Black Mesa research facility. It tells us a little bit about Freeman's role and sets up the narrative universe, all without leading his perspective," unquote. Stewart, 2018. So, since there are no cutscenes in Half-Life, this adds a lot of immersion to the player's experience. Because, without cutscenes, there's not that break in immersion. You're always in control of your character. In an interview on Rock, Paper, Shotgun, series writer Mark Laidlaw talks about how this was actually made rather late in development, but how there were actually several strengths about it. Quote, Laidlaw goes on to say, quote, "You were supposed to be alone in this vast, scary environment, but also alone in your head. And you can be whoever you want to be in that world," unquote, till 2023. So, in short, having active story events happen in-game and in real time really contributed a lot to not only the genre of shooters, but to video games as a whole. Let's see. So, secondly, I want to talk about the AI in Half-Life. So, the AI in Half-Life is actually really advanced for its time. Some enemies use things like pack behavior and will even try flushing you out of an area. They may throw a grenade or maybe, form together and try and make a push to gain control of an area. Some enemies will actually even run away from you depending on certain factors. In an interview in Next Generation magazine with Valve president Gabe Newell, Newell goes on to talk a bit more about this, saying, quote, "Monsters do a threat assessment on you. They see how much health you have and what kind of weapon you have," unquote. Next Generation magazine, 1997. So, at the time, AI in games was always really simple. The enemy would run up to you and try and slap you around a little bit with little to no forethought. However, Half-Life really changed the game with bringing in AI that actually put thought into their actions. So, however, it's not perfect. For example, enemies like Vortigaunts and, all of that, they can't attack you while they are moving, so it's really easy to exploit that. So, but even with that in mind, just the fact that Half-Life really brought advanced AI into the genre was really revolutionizing in that way. Lastly, I want to talk about the support for mods. So, upon release in the game's BIOS, Valve put the level editor in full, which was titled Worldcraft, within the game's BIOS in complete. So, upon release, people could use that world editor and make their own levels. And so, basically, again, I'm repeating myself. So, an article on Den of Geek sheds a bit more light on this, saying, quote, Valve made the decision early on to allow the Half-Life community to easily access the design tools that powered the game. This not only led to more people playing around with modding, but experienced mod creators enjoying nearly unprecedented access to a developer's toolbox, unquote. Berg 2020. So, since the world editor was implemented in full, a lot of people really took advantage of that and created their own modifications to the game. Some of these mods became very popular and were eventually, the IP was eventually bought by Valve, and some of the developers were hired on. The most infamous example of this being the first Counter-Strike, which was released in around 2000, I believe. And since then, since Valve purchased the IP, they have released several more games in the series, with the most recent one being Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO. And CSGO is always one of the most popular games on Steam, which is Valve's game distribution service. So, in short, without Valve's support for modding of Half-Life, we would not only see a lot less creativity from developers and the gaming industry, but we would also be robbed of one of Valve's most iconic IPs, being Counter-Strike. So, to end things off, I just want to say that without Half-Life, the gaming industry as a whole would be a whole lot different and unrecognizable than what it is now. Whether it's due to the interactive storytelling, the advanced, for the time, AI, or the support for mods, all of these things are really contributed and revolutionized first-person shooters and, again, games as a whole. So, considering everything I've talked about today, I want all of you to ask yourselves this. Without Half-Life, would we have games like Call of Duty or Halo?
No.
So, again, to me, the answer is absolutely not. Without Half-Life, I wouldn't have been able to sink all of those hours into Black Ops 3. So, to end everything off, I just want to say that without the amazing game known as Half-Life, we would not have the games we love today. And I think we should thank it for that. Thank you.